why that even exists.
Yeah, I see no weight to the argument that that will be an issue of balance of power. Why wouldn't you want these numbers to be the same when you're making the budget?
Yeah, he's not messing with it. He's just trying to fix it, I think.
Yeah.
I mean, I think if anything, if the balance of power is out here because he does not have the same numbers to work with, and they have a later estimate, so they can be more weary of, whether it's going to be too high. If it's too high, they can add more programs, or if it's going to be too low, then they can cut some stuff. And the governor's kind of just sitting there going, well, geez.
Well, yeah, exactly. And with all the budget problems we've been having, why would you not want to be coordinated and aware of what's actually going on? It's just so stupid to just be okay with having all these contradictory numbers going around.
Yeah, I don't see why the governor is mandated to use only the December numbers. That just doesn't make sense to me.
Okay, Ryan, you want to take us into our next article here?
Yes. All right. Iowa Senator Tom Harkin is proposing a new tax on stock tradings. Now, this new tax will be a fourth of a percent for the tax. They say it will raise roughly $1 billion a year.
$100 billion.
Sorry, $100 billion a year. What do you guys think of this? They say it's not actually going to affect very many individual Americans. It's more focused to the big Wall Street companies that do thousands upon thousands of stock trades daily.
Yeah, the tax is, like you said, 0.25% for any transaction over $100,000. So that means if it's a $100,000 gain, then you're going to get charged $250. I'm actually not in favor of that. I think Wall Street is already too heavily taxed. I think it doesn't sound like very much, but if you're trying to go after these big businesses, I just don't understand why you would need to tax them more. Like, that doesn't see how it's going to stop it. And they've admitted saying that it's not really going to help. So what the heck is the point?
Well, the point that they're trying to make, although I am personally against this, the point they're trying to make, I think, is to punish them. I think Wall Street completely has the blame for everything, and that is they deserve a lot of it, but there's plenty of blame to go around to everyone. And something very similar happened in England. England just announced that they will tax all of their stockbrokers 50%.
Jeez.
Of all their income. So ours are getting off a little better.
Well, yeah, but still, I mean, these people, whether you like them or not, and whether you agree with their business, they're what drives our economy. I mean, if it's not for Wall Street and this whole idea of publicly held companies, our economy would be nowhere. I mean, the daily stuff that happens on Wall Street makes everything move. I mean, people don't see that like that anymore.
Well, it gives people who wouldn't have the money otherwise a chance to have even more success, is what it does. And there are a lot of arguments to the point about excess and how much do they really need, and these people who just make money off of money. And there's a lot of anger towards those people because they don't actually make anything, but people forget that they consume so much.
Yeah.
So they're huge drivers of the economy.
So do you guys think that this plan will actually hurt Wall Street?
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah. I think people who are already afraid to re-enter the stock market will hesitate more.
Yeah, and these big companies are doing these multi-million dollars of business a day. 0.25% doesn't sound like that much until you take 0.25% of $1 million. Then that's
a lot.
Even if you do that every day, I think the thing that I'm surprised hasn't been addressed is, where's it going to go? They've said nothing about where this revenue from this tax is going to go. They're just saying they're going to tax them, and okay, where's it going to go, Tom? And he says nothing. Nobody knows where it's going to go.
Hopefully it'll just... this won't happen, but in an idealistic situation, it would just go to the government, and that would be money for them to use. I mean, they're running a deficit.
Right.
It doesn't need to go to anything specific. It just needs to go to them so they aren't spending on money they don't have.
Maybe try to pay down the debt that we have.
Yeah.
Let's try that. I think it's just going to wind up getting earmarked for some crazy, ridiculous, road to nowhere kind of thing. I'd like to know what you're.
Hopefully, there's some responsibility.
Have you ever looked at at our government?
Yes, I have, but they're under enough public pressure that you would assume that would not happen. Right now, if they tried to do some ridiculous earmark, whistleblowers would go crazy. Yeah. So it would be political suicide if whoever tried to put an earmark on there. I'm not that concerned about it.
All right.
Sorry,
all right, let's keep going. There's an article in Des Moines Register the other day about cameras, and it's starting to get into this whole idea of when can the government watch you and when can't they. This is about primarily public spaces, so like Kinnick Stadium or Jack Trice were both mentioned. They have cameras there to watch the crowd and make sure there's nothing that happens, and people are saying this is invading on people's civil liberties because they have to know when the government's watching them. Do you guys think that having cameras in public spaces such as parks, City Hall, Kinnick Stadium, like that, is that invading someone's civil liberties to be watched like that?
I don't think that really is at all. If it's a public space and you can be there watching it, why can't a camera sit there and watch it? I don't see how that's invading your civil liberties if you're out there in public.
No, yeah, I agree. It does not go invade on any kind of liberties. And one rule for like journalists, if you're in public, they can film you. So I think it's the same situation. All they have to do is point a camera and aim it at you, and they actually don't even need your permission because you're in public. It's not like a profit thing.
Yeah, I just don't think it holds any water. Where it kind of starts to get into where you can make a case for it is on private property. They say if there was a camera on a storefront that was positioned next to, say, a psychiatrist, and they saw, it's meant to watch their parking lot, but they can see people going to the psychiatrist. They can know people who have psychological problems. I mean, that sounds extremely random to me, but it was apparently worthy of mentioning in the article.
But it's a good point.
See, I don't think it is. It's a private property, so you don't have to do business there. So, like, I worked at Hy-Vee. We had cameras all over that store. And you know that because there's cameras. You can see them. There's big monitors showing you where, the primary of it's focused. And it's just, if you don't like it, don't go there. I mean, it's a private company, private property. They're allowed to do whatever they want as long as they're not filming you in the bathroom while you're using the restroom.
I think people just need to get used to the fact they will be on camera a lot on security surveillance cameras, because in parts of New York, but in London and a couple other major European cities, everywhere you go, you are on camera. That's how they police the cities.
I don't want to get into this whole like Patriot Act thing, but if you're not doing anything wrong, what's it matter? If you're just going to the game and you're going to watch the game, or you're going to go to a park and you're going to play with your children, if you're not doing anything, why should you even care about that?
Yeah, I agree with that.
And the other thing is, it cuts down on overhead so much. You can have one person sitting in an office, probably the size of the studio we're in here, which is not very big, and they could watch probably over half of Iowa City through cameras.
Exactly. It cuts costs. It makes everything easier.
Yeah, and the price for all of these systems are coming way, way down. I think that they should do that instead of having, police. I mean, because a camera's no different than a police officer at, say, Kinnick, That, and it's the same thing. If you
it's no different than having one of those private police officers who can't actually do anything.
Yeah, the Permar guys.
Call the actual police. Yeah.
So I don't understand why that argument. I mean, if it's going to save the city money, and it's no different than a police officer looking at you. It's not like they're going to be using it to spy on you or to watch you use the restroom.
That's the argument, because there's always, if you don't like something, there's always the slippery slope argument. It's like, well, if we do this, what will happen if we haven't? And it's, for this particular subject, it's not there for me.
Yeah, it holds no water at all.
I just think the issue with people is that they just don't like it. They just don't like being watched all the time, but they have no real legal issues to say about it.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right, we're going to go to a song, and we'll be back right after this with Senator Reed relating healthcare to slavery. Be back right after this. Welcome back to Informavores. Our next topic is Senator Harry Reid of Nevada. On Monday, he was on the Senate floor during an argument over health legislation, and he ended up giving a speech where he compares those who disagree with making certain health reforms to those who disagreed with getting rid of slavery. We have the sound clip for you right here.
Same excuse before you're right. When this country belatedly recognized the wrongs of slavery, there were those who dug in their heels and said, slow down. It's too early. Let's wait. Things aren't bad enough. When women spoke up for the right to speak up, they wanted to vote. Some insisted they simply.
He goes on to say that some simply said no.
Yes.
It just got cut a little early there. But this is another example of completely inappropriate rhetoric in the government.
Oh, yes. Ryan, do you also think that this was a little out of line, or do you think that this was an okay tactic?
It wasn't an okay tactic. I don't think it was